Right now.
2 seconds.
10 seconds.
I said, it's what? It only takes time.
10 seconds.
No, there's no. I saw it in person.
Okay, the call to order the council committee meeting for July 20th, 2026. Just before we call roll, there is on each side of the table a document that supports item 1 under water and sewer. The roll call, Marcinkowski.
Here.
Crumsey.
Here.
Washington. Cornish. Smith.
Here.
Pelkey. Bennett.
Right here.
Farrell here. And now for the audience participation. And again, I have the rules. Number 1, each person in the audience has 5 minutes to speak, no exceptions. Older persons have 10 minutes each. All persons, both audience and older persons, should be respectful with their comments. There will be no ongoing conversations between or among members of the audience or older persons during the meeting. Said conversations are both distracting and make recordings of the meetings difficult. In addition, the council members will not directly answer your questions during your 5 minutes. However, council members may address your question during their 10 minutes if they so desire. There will not be any additional commentary by the audience or conversations between the council members and the audience once audience and older person participation periods are completed. What's the same thing on both sides? Okay. Now that we're there, go ahead. I can see that you're anxious to get up.
Sure, Kyle. One of my episodic Mermaid House updates. We got the We got the word from our roofer this morning that the metal for Mermaid House is expected to arrive approximately 30 July. We will then coordinate the weather with tarp removal, historic photo documentation, wood retrieval of some of the historic wood, and then it gets turned over to the roofer to demolish what's left and put up the new roof. So hope for good, cool, no rain weather in that vicinity for 4 or 5 days in a row. Okay, we did get the attic ladder replaced last week prior to the new trusses going up, seeing as how they'll have cords at the bottom. It'll be really hard to maneuver in the attic after that, so we have that all done. The last ones were swaying down and no longer safe, so now we have a nice energy efficient aluminum attic ladder installed. That's it.
Thank you, Sharon. Anybody else? Okay, therefore we'll go on to older person comments, Harry.
I have a question about the Mermaid House. The roof was ruined, but were the rafters still good up there? Do you know?
No, they were about 3 by 3 hand hewn from 1830. There was originally cedar shake roofing. They weren't really even adequate for the metal roofing that went on who knows when, so some of them were swayed. And the spaced rafters that are literally sawed oak trees with bumps for the branches and bark on the side and such, that was the sheathing. Lots of it was even missing, and every time you go up in the attic, there's more pieces lying on the attic floor, so that it had to be replaced.
So they're using new product for that?
Yes, that was Ray Kemper produced trusses that are currently in the driveway.
And it being a historic, really historic building, does that hurt you guys with anything with grants?
No, that's where we coordinated everything, as I've said in previous Mermaid updates, that everything is coordinated and okayed with the SHPO. He understands
Mhm.
that we can't reuse the wood.
Cause that's
But we
site,
are trying to retrieve some of it for display purposes.
so that's sight unseen, you can't see it anyway, correct? Can you see it from the second
You
floor?
cannot, no.
Okay.
And that's where the good news, bad
Right.
news of the ceiling collapse is we discovered that the ceilings on the second floor are actually modern drywall with modern craft paper faced insulation between the historic wood
Mm.
attic floor and the drywall, and it just had plaster, slathered over the drywall. Well, we can redo that with nice, fluffy, thicker insulation.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was something that we discussed earlier. Discovered earlier that if it isn't seen, it can be replaced with modern materials.
Yeah, we got that. Everything's been coordinated with the State Historic Preservation Office, and they are cool with what we're doing to include the color of the metal that is being replaced, since it will not be an exact match.
Thank you, Sharon. Any other older person? Okay, I will bring this up only because I noticed it today when I was searching our website for a phone number, but our website really needs to be updated fast, quicker than we're able to do it. We don't have the staff to just assign it and get it done, but we need to be making a plan to get our city website updated. We have wrong names in there, wrong positions in there, and that's property, so it's gotta be updated as quickly as we can get it. It's one way people can get in touch with somebody at City Hall, particularly if they don't use the Voice Lebanon app. If they use Voice Lebanon, not a problem, it goes to the right place. But if they're going on our website, that's a problem, that needs to be updated. Any other comments or questions? Okay, then I'm going to go to the rest of the agenda. Finance Committee.
Just a very quick update, a week from tonight, expect we'll have a closed session to talk about the finance and accounting hire. That is it.
Okay, those interviews were conducted then.
Yes.
And nothing else for finance?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, water sewer.
Okay, so we're tonight, I had mentioned a couple weeks ago, about getting Hair Plumbing paid out for the original project. So tonight we're gonna discuss, recommend paying Hair Plumbing the remaining balance of $44,251.60 due for the original Hunter Street Lift Station project. And this is not from the, for the second change order. This is all for the work that they've already done. All of the work that they came out and redid and fixing the streets and everything else. So we have $44,251.60 left to pay for them. And in our ARPA monies, we have $19,059.56. So we will then use the rest of that. And then I was hoping to discuss with you guys about taking the rest of it from sewer. We have it in there, and the remaining of that would be the $25,192.04. And so that's what I'm presenting to you guys. I suggest we do that and get that moving forward. So when everything comes in for that lift station, they're already paid for the original project that they did, and then the next step is with TWM and getting all that hashed out with them and Hair Plumbing as well. So hopefully you guys are all in favor with that.
So the recommendation is to pay Hair Plumbing $44,251.60.
Yes,
with ARPA funds.
yes,
And funds from the sewer account.
correct, yes.
So that's the recommendation. Everybody agree?
That makes sense to me.
split. all
Okay,
around.
so we're in consensus on that one. That one can move forward as a recommendation to next week's meeting. Continue on, sir.
Okay, the second one we have discussed, recommend and change to Herman Street TWM contract to add a construction observation person for an estimated fee of $27,000. I personally, because of the last couple of big projects that we had and had some things that were not caught and not taken care of when they should have been addressed. I think this is a very smart move on our hand to do it. We have the money, I mean, and all reality, $27,000 for what we are at right now between that, the street that we have the hole caving in on, and then the lift station as well with all the issues here. I think it's very beneficial that we should, absolutely, do this and have somebody on it, because then that takes all the responsibility off of the city and then on to them. So I think it's a good insurance policy for us, so that if something like the lift station happens or the road out there that we have that issue with, it's on them and not on us.
Then it's not on her.
I'm sorry,
That whole caving in is not on her.
okay, and that's on Herman.
He's just using that as an example.
I'm just
She
using
doesn't
that,
want a
yeah.
problem like that happening on this other project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, just as an, yes, just as an example is all. So I recommend that we do this, we move forward with that.
So the recommendation is to move forward with adding the construction observation person for an estimated fee of $27,000.
Yes.
Any objections?
Where do the funds come from?
I possibly the utility tax, but when that project gets to, I mean, I think we have what, gosh, I don't exactly know when that is starting exactly, but I think we do have some time, but possibly our utility tax, I think is what was thrown around there. But I think that's something that we'll cross when we get there, if that's, yeah, I mean, but sewer, I know we have money in sewer and a lot, I don't know if we can pull from that, is that something we can pull from if we needed to?
Yeah, so this is one of those grants that, it's all part of that grant project that we know, there's like the 4 or 5 of them that are gonna hit at some point in the next 18 months, but we don't know exactly when, so depending on when they hit as they come forward, we'll have to kind of diversify where we need to and pull funds from the water and sewer and stuff where we need to, and like he said, when I looked at everything, when I saw this was on the agenda and everything, the 27,000 compared to how massive the project is and what we've paid in dealing with our issues on the other project,
Yeah.
it's worth it, and we'll cross that bridge on exactly what fund it has to come to and how. We know those grants are coming, and we're gonna have to make a move at some point with those grants on how we're gonna fund those. It's not something we wanna shortchange ourselves on.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, so the recommendation is to add the person 27,000. Any objections? And I assume there's consensus to move forward. This will be a recommendation from the committee on next week's agenda.
And that's all I have for water and sewer.
Anybody else have anything for water sewer?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to personnel.
Well, personnel, we have to discuss and recommend accepting election by Penny Zimmerman to use accrued sick leave toward health insurance pursuant to election letter. Discuss that. I looked at it, and I wanted to ask if this is an agreement that was, the union actually, this is a city ordinance. But I looked at it and I said, well, if it's an agreement, then we have no other choice but to act on it. If it's,
From what I read here, it's part of the union contract.
Mhm.
So it's an election that's made by the employee. And it's funds that are basically already there somehow.
And she got a couple of phone numbers on there, like say the city wanted to call and check what's there, the accuracy of the contract or what have you. To do that.
The contract, I think, is accurate. It's just that,
What was she saying?
yeah, so we have $40,000 to apply towards premiums. If she didn't do that, she'd get the money anyway. So it's not it's just an issue of
Yeah.
where it's gonna go. We're approving paying that insurance. So, any objections to this going on next week's agenda? Recommendation? Then will be a recommendation on next week's agenda. At this point, health and safety. Nothing?
No.
Okay, that takes care of the agenda business. Is there any unfinished business?
Well, we're starting to getting numbers for a number of things. I guess you guys tabled, I wasn't here last week. The survey on the property over there. And I agree why you guys tabled it. But we're now in July, almost August, and we're gonna have some difficult conversations about what's gonna happen next with City Hall and that parking lot or there next to City Hall. What our game plan is, and we're starting to get some numbers in, but just so you know, the numbers that demolished the building, they're about 150 to 200. And I was explaining to somebody today that when you do estimate for that, you can only, if the person is experienced, they know what's kind of going to happen when they do a demolition because they don't know what's behind certain things. So most of the unforeseen costs would be like asbestos removal and things like that. Now, so if an experienced person comes in and they kind of already know that, it's a knowledgeable estimate. So it'll be interesting to see how we deal with all that, but I just want to make you guys aware that that's coming up. And then as far as renovation, you guys already know where I'm at with that. I was trying to explain it to somebody the other day. It's kind of like that building would be like me going into the dentist and saying I would like my teeth to be fixed, and the dentist looks at my teeth and says, I wish you would have done something 30 years ago because I have nothing to build on top of what you want. You want your teeth fixed, but I can't do anything. I can call an endodontist, put in new teeth. That'd be very expensive, but it'd be very painful. There's a possibility I could do that. I could send somebody, but I can't do anything about your teeth at this point because they're really irreparable. And you can go through the expense of doing endodontistry. And I'm like, well, then you're a terrible dentist. Well, no, the dentist says, no, I'm not a terrible dentist. You should have done what you should have done 20, 10, 30 years ago and did some upkeep on it. That's kind of where we're at with this building. I don't know how to make this more clear to people, but the people that say that we could really save this building, and I get there's some people that think that we could do that, and maybe we could use federal money, state money. That's still my tax money. I think it would be terrible to use that money towards that building because again, we're not getting any closer to having a good city hall because it still wasn't good. And we don't have a police department. That's good. The building is good. We have to start thinking about where we want to be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now when none of us are here on this board. And you know, there's gonna be a lot of discussion about this and there's gonna be a lot of pushback from some people, not very many people, but from some people. So I'll give you one more example. There was a show on not too long ago. Guys were rebuilding this 55 Chevy and everything was ready to get painted. They wheeled this thing out on rollers because it didn't have all that stuff on, and somebody was delivering something and backed into it. Well, they were pretty upset about it because they were just ready to get it painted. And now the frame, they bring it back in, they're gonna fix the body on it. Well, then they realized that the frame was bent. That was the end of the renovation. And my opinion is the city hall's frame is bent. It's at a point where we just are too far gone into it. So you guys are gonna have to wrestle with that as you get the information. Talk to people in town, I guess. But for some people, this is gonna be a very difficult, decision. And just because people are upset doesn't mean that we don't have to do what's right. We're gonna have to figure out what's right with it. So anyway, those numbers are coming in. I mean, be ready for a fight because there's gonna be some people pretty upset if we do decide to demolition that building. But we're gonna have to have a game plan. We have to have a game plan to present to everybody and why we're doing it, give them specific reasons why, like real numbers. But right now, we're just talking about it and people don't have the facts yet. So if you guys wanna walk through the building, I would definitely go through with Matt and so he can take you in places that you can go into and other places you can't go into so that you're safe.
Are we still entertaining the idea of possibly selling the building?
I would say that if you guys decide that you guys want to do that, I'd still put a price tag on that because I think that property is worth something to the city. You're never going to get a piece of property that size in the city again. So if the city decides, the council decides that we need parking, that would be a good place for it. If we don't need parking, then you could sell it for a certain price. It's still worth something. So as an investor, if you think that the building is worth, if an appraiser comes in and goes, hey, I think this building and property is worth $300,000, but it's going to cost, the person's not going to renovate it, probably not going to renovate it. They're going to tear it down and build something new. So we could decide if that's what we want to do as a city, if that's what the direction we're going into, that we want to get the money out of it and make a certain amount of money. But we won't know that until we decide the direction we want to go into, what's going to be best for us in 20, 30, 40 years from now. So yeah, I mean, somebody could renovate that building. You'd have to, in my opinion, you almost have to give the building away for, I don't know, maybe 100 grand. I don't know. I don't know what that, I mean, you'd have to put it out for bid. And then I don't know if you could have a reserve on it. But if you have a reserve on it, you'd have to say, we'd have to decide, hey, this property is worth this much to us. It's going to cost us 150 to 200 to tear it down. So if we can sell it to somebody, go renovate it, that would save us 150 to $200,000 from tearing it down. And we also have a building that's possibly giving us tax money.
Yeah. I mean,
the parking lot next to it, but we don't really know. So we got to kind of put down what our wish list is and then figure out how realistic it is.
Well,
So
there's two.
there's so many plates.
There's a couple of things going on. First of all, we're waiting for an appraisal and on the property. So we can have an idea what the market value of that property would be.
The existing market.
Hmm?
Existing market value right now.
Right. And then we are waiting for the cost of demolition estimates on that. So if we don't do anything, we just tear it down. But we also need to be looking at what are we gonna do with the property, the land,
Right.
the real estate, once we tear it down. Is it gonna, real estate gonna be something that will be a benefit to the city?
Right.
Is it a bigger benefit to the city to sell the land for commercial use? To divide the land, because it is several parcels, we could divide the land for commercial. So there are a number of decisions we have to make. And all of those decisions, except for anything that's involving a dollar figure, has to be done in public session. So we need to be prepared to have some long discussions. It's something we have to decide this within, we're not talking years on this, we're talking months, if not weeks, to get decisions made as to what we're gonna do with that property. Because when it gets to be November, December, nothing's going to happen. Because it's, even if somebody bought the property, they would not be able to start doing anything to it for almost 5 or 6 months. We've got to make some decisions probably within the next 2 to 3 months. That's my feeling on this.
First thing has to be done, you have to find a place for EMS, EMT to,
Right, yeah.
before you even
And we have a potential,
entertain that.
right, and we have a potential place for that. But we also need to move on, are we going to spend the money to do the renovations to that property?
Yeah, I mean, where are we at, where are we at with that?
We kind of put it a little bit on hold, waiting for our public works director. Walked through it a number of times. Jessica did a nice drawing on it. However, the engineering on the drawings weren't gonna work. So, I mean, it would have been visually correct, but engineering wouldn't have been correct. So I did walk through with an architect a number of weeks ago. I really think he would be a great guy to work with. Because again, when we're talking about all the things that we want to do, they're all depending on what we decide to do this and to do this and do this. So it's kind of really a spinning plates. So we kind of need, and I'm not sure where Matt, our public works director is, and how much he can do, but we kind of need somebody that's an architect that can do multiple things and doing what we're kind of doing with TWM, overseeing that project. And so we kind of need somebody to oversee multiple things happening, and we have to figure out how we can do that without spending so much money. Because it is really important. If not, you end up wasting more money than you're saving money. You think you're saving money by not hiring somebody to do that. That's why people hire general contractors instead of doing it for themselves. And sometimes a person can save money if they're very knowledgeable, not hire a general contractor, but normally you have to hire somebody like that to do that. So the answer to the question is that building can be renovated. It's gonna cost some money. I know we have some monies that are available, right, Jessica, through different programs. But again, if the council decides they're gonna renovate that building, we need to move the EMTs out for a period of time and then renovate, bring them back in. So there's a lot of different things. We gotta decide what we wanna do.
Either way, though, I feel like that we should move the EMS out of like the downtown area, because if like we start having more events downtown and things like that, roads blocked off, and then that leaves their access only to a certain couple of routes, you know, and with them being out here, wherever we're at right now, I think that would be more beneficial for them and for the people in need of the ambulance, because they're not like, oh wait, this road's closed off, we need to move this route. So I almost feel like it'd be in our best interest, excuse me, to really start to move on that project to get them in there and get them out of downtown. Just like how I was never a fan of like our streets department working out of the city hall.
Right.
I don't think that's, I mean, you got the big trucks and
Right.
excavators or whatever, you know what I mean? I just don't think that's a good look.
Right.
And then too, like with the ambulance stuff, not necessary, it's not a good look, it's just though, you know, we want to have events and things like that, the plays and all that kind of stuff that brings in all the people, and they need to rush out of there and they have all these people around. It's just, I think it's more of a hazard than.
What's the address up here, Mayor? One of this building we have right up here. What's the address on that one?
This one,
No, the one that's,
103 West Linville.
yeah, 103. That building probably could be renovated for an EMT place for them to live and to have trucks, probably 2 trucks. Again, depending on how nice you want to make it, 150, 200 grand, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And don't hold me to those numbers because I haven't penciled it all out, but we might decide, that's what I'm saying. We have to get this in our head. We have to make some decisions here pretty soon, because probably the first step is to find them a home.
Yeah.
And start working on that, because that's not a huge expense. And talking with Jessica and Stephanie, we have some funds there, and also the EMS are willing to put some money in there too. So that building needs to be used for something anyway.
Right. I
We're
mean,
not
it's
using
just
it for
sitting
anything.
there and it's an eyesore.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be a great, I mean, just like when she presented all that stuff to us, I think it's a great spot for them. And they're right here on the highway,
Right.
which is great. And they have access all over town through here. And I almost feel like whether we keep the building downtown or we demolish or whatever we're gonna do with it, I think that we should start moving on that project to get them in there. Whether we keep the building downtown or not,
Right.
I think that we should move them out of there regardless.
I agree. Did you have a question, Jessica?
Yeah, I was just gonna share, so you guys approved to bring in the engineer to do the plans, so I know like the plans I had I told you
Right.
guys they weren't gonna be exact, so
Right.
we just need to find the engineer we're hiring and then have the cost and bring forward to vote on that. But there's also that grant that we had, to be honest, right now, I don't even know if we're still gonna be able to have, because they've been asking for plans and we're not giving them any, so if there's any chance of us getting that grant, which was a non-match grant, it was a $25,000, 100% funded grant that was gonna be able to do that roof and everything, like, if we're going to do that, we have to have plans, like, sooner than later. If they're, and like I said, we may have already lost that opportunity, which is why we were kind of trying to push that forward a while back. So we really need to, it's already approved for us to do that, so we just need to find the engineer that's gonna draw up the plans so that we can get bidding on it, so we can get those numbers, so we can send it to the grant people, and then we can move forward.
Was that county or state? Was
The
that
grant?
Yeah, was that federal?
I believe that one was through a county thing, but I could be, don't quote me on that, I'd have to look back at the email. But, so, and there may be other ones, but we can't do anything, like, when we told him what our idea was, he was like, absolutely, get the plans, send them over. And then we're stuck there. So he has the tentative plans that I did of kind of what the idea was, to say that they would be willing to shift that grant. But we need plans from an engineer, so, I know when I spoke to Luke before, he said he sent a few names, and typically talk to a couple of them, get one of them to tell us how much it's gonna cost us to get those plans, and we need that number to vote on it now so that we can get that moving forward, cause he's right, no matter what, we have to start addressing that issue, no matter what we're doing with City Hall.
Mhm.
Do we have to get 3 different architects in here to give us ideas? Because they're not gonna even know what they're bidding on, because there's no plans.
Right,
Can we vote on a certain amount of money to get an architect started and be able to run those prints, give us the design?
So if you show them like what our ideas and like what we already had drawn up.
Yeah.
They should be able to give you an idea of roughly what it's gonna cost them to get together plans, and
Yeah.
you can ask them, and then we don't have to have 3, but we usually recommend doing 3 anyways, but they should be able to give you a hey, I will do the plans for this for $3,000, $5,000,
Gotcha.
whatever it may be, and then we can bring that forward. But we do have to know what engineer firm or architect, whatever route we're going, what firm we're using and what the cost is gonna be, and we have to vote on that before they can initiate actually doing those plans.
Yeah, okay, I got some of that already.
if
So,
it's at $25,000 or more.
Yeah.
Then it has to go through a bid process.
Oh,
no, yeah, we'll definitely be less than that for drawings, but
now, what is the best angle to go for that? Is it an engineer or is it an architect? I mean, what's the difference between, is it tomato kind of
yes,
thing?
its answer is yes. You need an architect that has some engineering capabilities and maybe an engineer in the office so that they can do some, but most architects, well, I shouldn't say most architects. The best architect is somebody that's been a builder already, because they know what they can do and they know how they can save money, because architects tend to build something without the idea of what it's gonna cost. So we need somebody that has some experience again in building and architectural, because they'll build something better and something that's easier to build. Because the architect is not building it, it's the guys on the ground, they're
Right.
building it. So sometimes they give you prints and you go, I can't do this the way you drew it out. It doesn't work that way. So yes, they usually in that office will have an engineer and an architect in there.
Okay.
So there's a couple, this is what's frustrating with me, because normally when you're doing contracting work, you work with the same people all the time because you trust them, they do great work, because you're not going back to fix some of the things we're fixing now, because we have to usually go with the lowest bid. And the jobs I used to do, we used to bid, we'd never be the lowest bid because we could never do it for what the lowest bid was for. And then they call us back to fix what the original person did for more money than what we originally bid on, because they screwed it up,
Mhm.
because they had to go with the lowest bid. We should be able to, I don't know how it is, to be able to look at those people that are bidding, to go, you know what, they suck, we don't want to use them. We're gonna go with the middle bid. I don't know how that is. I don't know how that works.
We
'Cause I haven't
can
seen-
do that, we don't use the word suck. What we do is we say, past experience and looking at projects this particular architect has designed and conducted. There were deficiencies in it, therefore they're not the kind of quality we want.
Yeah.
We don't have to go with the lowest bid.
Yeah.
But we have to have some solid reasons
Yeah.
not to use the lowest bid.
Yeah, and that, I would say good luck.
And that's why sometimes, I've gone through processes with school buildings or university buildings where we actually put the architect and design out to bid,
Right,
because that's gonna be usually $25,000-$30,000 anyway. And that way we have a chance to really look at the architects and get a formal presentation from each architect. That's another way of doing it, to make sure we're getting somebody that we believe. And again, we're still gonna go by what they tell us, but we have an opportunity, because usually what happened with us is the architects come in and they said, here is a school that we built. So we can go to that school board or that board of directors and trustees and say, were you happy with the work? And if they weren't happy with the work, we found out the reasons, and those are the reasons to take them out of the bid.
yeah. With new buildings, it's a little easier because you're saying this is what we want to build, da. But when you're
Yeah.
dealing with renovations, you got one architect that has one idea and the other architect has a completely different idea how to renovate that building, so they have different, prints. So it becomes more difficult. One could be more creative and the other one is very,
I think though, like with this building, I mean, all we're talking is a garage and a small sleeping quarters. I don't think it could be, you know what I mean?
yeah, it shouldn't be that
It
much
shouldn't be
difference.
that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know enough to be dangerous. That's about it. But I
Yeah.
don't know,
We don't want you to lose your other eye.
yeah.
That's what I was gonna say, I wouldn't overcomplicate the Randall Street. City
Yeah.
Hall is gonna be a completely
Yeah, yeah.
different story, but this
Yeah.
Randall Street, the building's already there, I wouldn't overcomplicate it. It's not even our building, it's the one for MedStar, so we're gonna put in there what we're required to put in there.
Yeah.
And we're gonna make it not look like an eyesore in town, like it kinda does right now to a certain extent. But
Absolutely.
beyond that, like, it's not a building we should be looking at spending, we've got way bigger issues than trying to make this a fancy building for the EMS.
Right,
So I would simply and that's how I would approach it with the people designing it, what do we want? We want the minimum of what we have to do on this building to check these boxes within this contract of what we have to provide. And and that's what, I don't think we should be going above and beyond on this at this time. We can always add to it later when, we're rolling in millions of dollars, but of all the projects we have going right now, this needs to be as simple as possible.
yeah, the only issue with that building is it's not really deep enough for the EMS trucks. And if it was, this would be a simple thing. But it's a little more difficult because you gotta figure out if you want them to pull in sideways, or if you wanna build that out a little bit. My opinion is you need to build it out, at least one section of it, a little bit out, so you don't have somebody that's sleep deprived, because half the time they are, and they back in and they take out the back wall. So we have to figure that out. That's the only reason why it's a little more difficult than just
Sure.
renovating it.
It sounds, from what I've been reading and looking at, that on that particular project, we can get away with probably 3 estimates on the design of it. And rather than the whole thing, just what are your estimates? What do you estimate this will cost us to turn this building into our concept of having 2 bays and a sleeping quarters? Make it that simple, and go to 3 architecturals, or 4 or 5, whatever you want to, and say, what do you estimate this will cost? And then look at the lowest estimate and check the company out, and maybe move in that direction. We could probably get this done fairly quickly.
Well, we have 3 architects right now that 2 of them have already looked at it. So if you guys want me to ask them to do that, I'll do it.
I would suggest that would be a good idea.
So you wanna move there first, that's fine.
Yeah, let's get that out of the way so we can get EMS out of the building. That way we have more flexibility what we're gonna do with that building.
Right, especially if we want to sell, it's like, well, hold on a sec, we're going to sell you the building, of course, yeah, but you gotta wait, because we gotta build this for
We have a tenant
EMS.
in there.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't think anybody's.
I don't know, I had a buddy of mine, he's seen how many liquor licenses that we have open. And he's like, I'll make it into a club. He goes, you got the college here? He goes,
Turn into a big club.
yeah,
Dance.
he's got places in St. Louis and in Edwardsville, yeah.
Maybe a Russian techno dance club.
No, nothing like that.
No, it's gotta
Nothing
be-
like that.
It's in a historic district, so it's gonna be.
Well, I mean, he's seen that we have bars and stuff down there. That's why he was like, well, heck, I'll just.
Pastor
turn it into
Brendan's
a
all
bar."
for that one, right?
Yeah. I said, whatever you wanna do, bud, I don't care.
Okay.
All right, that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Any other unfinished business? Any new business that we can discuss without making a decision? Okay, if there's no further business to be discussed or addressed, meeting is adjourned.
Session to session.